What's good, YouTube and Twitch? We're live to both with a discussion that I think you guys will find interesting. Throughout the years, Konami has found very interesting cards to reprint, and reprint again, and reprint again and again and again. So, myself, and chat included, have created a list compiled of 50 different cards that should see a reprint by Konami within the next 2 years, either by their price point now, their scarcity, and kind of a conversation among other things with certain cards involved. So let's go ahead and get into it. Starting with Blackluster Soldier. This OG card has not seen a reprint since a $30 locked MSRP product in the Legendary decks, and it's a pretty good classic card that actually bumped back up to 3 on the Forbidden and Limited list. And it actually had relevance within Burning Abyss decks using 3 of these and topping events. So I would like to see that. Another card deserving of a reprint is Blue Eyes Alternative White Dragon. Shout out to the Blue Eyes players. This card doesn't really need to be at a $20 price point, locked in only one product when we've been getting different kinds of alternative dragons and support that shows, hey, this could be a reprint here or there, but instead it's locked in the movie pack for now. Piece of Mist support. Brotherhood of the Fire Fist Dragon. While almost every other piece of necessary Fire Fist support has been reprinted with it being in a new Duelist pack, this gets left behind. Well, it's a side set, not a Duelist pack. But the point being, we have brand new support, it's very exciting, and we're missing this little piece of tech. Carbon Edon only has its one printing period in Dragons of Legend, a set that has gone up in value for every incarnation over time, and this combo piece would be very welcome for a reprint, and a lot of the dinosaur stuff in general has been going up. This is more used for the IB Synchro combos. A card missed by the Megatons is Chaos Dragon Levianeer, and Levianeer is very interesting in the fact that it's goes with that chaos aspect of banishing lights and darks being somewhat generic in that aspect, but also fitting in dragon strategies using the guard dragons more recently. Another chaos dragon that really could see a reprint, no longer a prize card, is Chaos Emperor the Dragon of Armageddon. Within the next 2 years, we should see this reprint because every cycle is there's a new prize card after the current prize card, and then the next one comes out, and usually around that time, within 2 years, we see the reprint of past prize card. So I'd like to see that, and I'd also kind of like to see Blood Mephist, but people are saying it's because of the name, it's because of the art, it's not getting reprinted. Well, eventually we got a Quasar reprint, so I imagine there's something they can do to make Blood Mephist reprinted one day. It just keeps getting missed. Now, a common locked in structure deck, and I believe a star pack, is Draconet, another combo piece that goes arms in arm with a Carbon Edon in certain combos, I think should also be reprinted. It's a great piece of generic cyber support that's amazing for link summoning and could use a different reprint. And being dark, you know, alert target, all that good stuff, it's a combo piece, and it deserves to have more copies running around instead of being an expensive common for people to have to go out and find. Here's one a lot of you guys want. Fantastical Dragon Phantasme. I think this one, out of Savage Strike, being the top seller from the set, definitely should see a reprint at some point. I think personally it'll be either in the March reprint set that Konami does every year on that. To explain, that's usually around Dupo, Dual Power, or Legendary Collection Kaiba. Used to, it started with Gold Series. Almost every single March we get some kind of reprint set, and I hope Phantasme either ends up in that to sell it, or, more preferred, probably Battles of Legend. Another expensive common that recently got some hype that only has a couple of printings is Grin Maju Daiza. This could easily see a super in an OTS pack coming up, and I really hope that it does. We also recently had Karakuri support announced, and Karakuri Merchant MDL 177, and I'm just murdering him everywhere, but he's stuck in Starstrike Blast, and this card, again, could also easily see its way into a OTS pack super or a Battles of Legend, but it definitely needs a reprint with upcoming support. Another card, or cards that have had upcoming support already released is the Madolches, which could heavily use some reprints such as Magdalene constantly going between $18 to $30 for a super rare that never got a reprint out of all the way back to the Spellbook days. I believe that's no, it's not Return of the Duelist. It's REDU for the set name. Is that Return of the Duelist? But seriously, Magdalene overdue for a reprint. I'm sure Chad will get me if I mess it up. Now, one of the kaijus that hasn't been reprinted, a Ultraman representative, is Radian, the multi-dimensional kaiju. It's a level 7, it's a dark, it's an alert target. It's seen its way into BA decks, but a lot of the other kaijus have reprints at this point for kaiju engines. Radian keeps getting missed, just like our next guy, Shadol Dragon. Somehow we have an upcoming Shadol structure deck. There's so much hype into Shadols. Battles of Legend gave us Ultras, and we already had Super OTS packs, reprints, yet Shadol Dragon remains unreprinted, period, past the original Mega Packs that had a huge, expansive list. So this is a $4 rare for really no reason for anyone wanting to run a Shadol engine, and it's actively a part of a lot of people's Shadol engine, just choosing Dragon and Beast for their cards to make Winda and Orca stacks. Now, here's a structure deck. Usually I don't advocate too much for structure deck like reprints, but the Dinosaur structure deck, Overraptor is like $8 right now and keeps getting bought out to the point of $12. The Dinosaur engine's amazing, and I think it was meant to be budget at first, and with how popular that structure deck's been over time, I would like to see the Dinosaur engine continue to be a budget option for people who want to mix it in. So I do think Overraptor and light cards need a reprint at some point. Necroz recently took back to the scene, and a card that they've been using is Vanity's Ruler. So you use the incantations instead of using your normal summon, and that leaves you a normal summon later where you can use Vanity's Ruler, forcing them to have some kind of effect negation to have to take care of it in order to continue their turn. Well, I'm not the biggest fan of Floodgate-like cards. We've seen multiple reprints for Vanity's Fiend and even Majesty, so Vanity's Ruler really could use a reprint. Here's an obscure common that I really like. You all Skull Servant players probably know the pain of overpaying for this. White Mare from Starstrike Blast. This card's ridiculous to be a $12 card just because of its set and popularity of its archetype being like one of those rogue favorites. It definitely deserves to have a cheaper printing and probably a foil upgrade while you're at it. The next 3 cards all come from a certain pack that chat really wants to see some reprints from, and that's the Legendary Duelist. So Legendary Duelist has a ton of cards locked behind it that have gone up in price over time from low sales of Legendary Duelist itself. It's the evolution of Duelist Pack. And over time, we saw reprints of Duelist Pack exclusive cards such as Destiny Hero Malicious and Card Trooper. Very meta impactful cards. And these are cards that are high in price, pretty big in demand, yet the set just doesn't sell too well or didn't have that many copies printed because it's a Duelist Pack and it's a lower MSRP product. I would like to see reprints on these kinds of cards, especially if they're meta relevant. But this is kind of the discussion because there's so many more. Harpy Perfumer, people were bringing up the train stuff. Well, yes, that was just kind of released somewhat recently. Still somewhat affordable, but I would like to see maybe a Battles of Legend in the future that tackles these kinds of cards. Cyber Emergency, speaking of Battles of Legend, this card is so expensive, and there's so many different Cyber Dragon reprints with the Megatons recently that it and Naster are kind of 2 of the harder to get cards for Cyber Dragons. I'd seriously like to see it have a reprint, as well as Chimera Tech Mega Fleet Dragon. This is another card that was locked behind a $30 MSRP and the Legendary decks, and those decks have gone up over time to where it's like $45, $48 to get those. So both of these, I think, highly deserving of a reprint, but the more immediate need is for Cyber Emergency. Next up, Double Evolution Pill. Again, going back to the Dinosaur engine, this is a singular printing out of Battles of Legend as well that I would like to see reprinted. And keeping on that Battles of Legend train, a short print that also is an anime card, Golden Castle of Stromberg. Dare I say it could be a gold rare? Don't bring back gold rares, Konami. It's fine. But seriously, I think that Golden Castle of Stromberg could see an ultra rare printing for gold lettering, and it would be pretty awesome to have easier access to. Now, a long-term use common, Instant Fusion, could also use a reprint. At this point, it's nearing $3 again, despite how many printings it's had. It's just a high utility card, and almost every single metagame that has existed, Instant Fusion finds a way back in, so making it accessible to players would be pretty nice. nice. A card that's also gone up that was reprinted in Battles of Legend at one point is Into the Void. This card is now $5. I highly urged people to get it when it came out. It went all the way down to $1, and over time has just climbed back up as one of those unique draw cards that finds its ways into some decks for consistency, and usually in more degenerate decks. But between these two cards, obviously, this is more meta-inducive, where this is more, my strategy's trying to pop off, so maybe Konami doesn't want this kind of a reprint too accessible. But they did put it in the first Battles of Legend, so it's been like 3 years now. Metamorphosis. So Konami at one point reprinted Delinquent Duo and Legendary Collection Kaiba, and a lot of people got hyped thinking it might come back. I would just like to see Metamorphosis have a reprint outside of, is it Dark Revelations or Beginning? It has 2 total printings besides its $500 super rare, so I would like to see some maybe secret rare version of this in a set like Legendary Collection Kaiba, just to give ease of access. Next up, another Savage Strike card is Pot of Extravagance. This one I would like reprinted sooner than later because, A, it's not that many players playing it. It offers insane power to very few decks. Even True Draco shoves aside its power so that it can play certain cards. But I think Pot of Extravagance offers a lot for what it does to a few strategies, and being a shorted secret within the set, I'd like to see it in the hands of more players who just want generic draw power. Upstart Goblin, speaking of the draw power, hasn't had a printing in a very, very long time, and even though it's like a one of right now, because it's limited to one, it's like a $3 card, so that could be a pretty good thing to have another holofoil version of, or even a rare if you want to give it a different rarity. Artifact Sanctum is a trap card that's getting a little of extra gas. We now have reprints of Trap Trick, we got a reprint of Scythe, we could use another reprint of Artifact Sanctum at some point. Dried Winds Mist getting a reprint at all with all the new Aromage support, and definitely could use a little bump in somewhere so that people have access to it. Evenly Matched is a card that has gotten a double reprint already, so it got a Mega 10 reprint, and then it got a side set reprint, but now we see it starting to go up. It's a great generic utility tool that I think could be used more. So I kind of predict that it'll get reprinted in the March set again, or maybe Battles of Legend, but it's something that players should have access to in general. Remember when this card was like $60, paying $180 for a playset? I want to avoid it being expensive again after it's already had 2 reprints, so a third is fine here. Now, a card from Flood that a lot of people want to see reprinted is Infinite Impermanence, and I think it should have its time soon. It's only had its 1 reprint, and Flood was a long, long time ago, and now the Megatons are kind of choking out. I think this will be used to sell a side set, unfortunately, as a short printed super similar to Ash Blossom, but I'd love to see it more accessible in any way, shape, and form to Duelist. Solemn Judgment has actually crept up after it's gone off the ban list to almost $7 for every single variant and copy. The higher end ones are still relatively affordable, except for like First Ed MRD, which is probably insane. But I would just like, we got Solemn Strike over in Duel Devastator. I'd like to see Solemn Judgment, and it's even more generic. The Monarchs Erupt. We saw there can be only 1 also reprinted in Dude. Monarchs Erupt that only has a couple printings, and while 1 is a structure deck, I'd like to see this more easily accessible for tribute decks to have advantage to use. Next up, we head to the extra deck with Shadol Annoy Tillis. This is one of the only other Shadol cards that got missed. While its prominence was from stopping people from using stuff like ritual spells to summon monsters in Necros format, it still has a little bit of a touch of what it could do. It just needs a reprint in general. Arnios. Okay, Konami, I get why you maybe don't want to reprint this, because generic insane OTKs. Look, this card, just give it a reprint. It's the cover of a set. Come on, just do it, please. Next up is Kaminari Attack. We have it from all the way back in the day, and Metal Raiders, one of those more generic fusions, but it's able to be summoned from instant fusions for Thunder Dragons, and we've seen a lot more pure Thunder players also using instant fusion as an insane starter and extender card. I'd love to see this more accessible and maybe in a super rare and an OTS pack. Next up, Masked Hero Dion. Very deserving of a reprint, actually a pretty good effect, works well with Solid Soldier. This guy should definitely be more accessible. Finally, the final card, I hinted to it earlier from Legendary Duelist, is Millennium Eyes Restrict. This guy is actually competitive. It's a really good card. A $30 luck price point is a bit much for me for an instant fusion target. I'd love to see that fixed. Now, another GOAT format card that could use some kind of reprint is the Last Warrior from Another Planet. I feel like when they made Waking the Dragon, we should have seen this somewhere, maybe in the same OTS pack as it, but this could definitely use some kind of easier to get version, and definitely easier to get near mint version than this ancient being. I want this card to get a reprint just so it's accessible to everybody. Trishula, the Dragon of Icy Imprisonment. While it's a $12 to $13 card, which isn't the worst thing in the world for a jump card, I just like to see everybody have access that wants to use it. Borreload Savage Dragon is way up there for an ultra rare. We recently got the Rocket Structure deck, and for that kind of money, I get that it's a short amount of time when I talk about Savage Strike cards. I still think that and that's why I stopped the conversation. Like, we're not going to talk about Dane cards in this, maybe a little bit late for people screaming cards in the comment section down below. I wanted to stop at Savage Strike with the reprints, and this one definitely up there for an ultra rare. Now, going back in the Synchro era, back to the day, well, used more recently for combos and Mare, Yazi only has a couple printings and definitely could use a reprint as well. Its price point has gone up over time, it's generic for its utility, and definitely gets pluses elsewhere. Beatrice only has this gold printing. I'd like to see this in maybe a regular secret rare, maybe a super rare, but definitely would like to see it reprinted and easier access for people. Burning Abyss is a deck that just is eternal, so I'd like to see it have something. Now, I thought this card would be in Duel Devastator 100%. Daigusto Emerald, so deserving of a reprint, peeling off the Forbidden Limited list, originally put there because it was helping make Firewall by looping a Link 3 normal monster. Come on, please give this a reprint. Such an iconic Xyz. Why did we end up with like 101 Honor Arc? This could have easily been in here. This is like my only gripe with Dude at all as a set is I thought this would be in here. You announced the set so soon after the FNL list. Totally awesome. Could definitely use a reprint. It's got only its secret rare printing and Megatons for a card that used to be freaking like $60. Only having 2 printings is pretty dangerous, and it's such a good card, and the Frog Engine itself is actually somewhat hard to get as well. I'd love to see this have some kind of reprint. And the final card out of the extra deck is Blackluster Soldier of Chaos. This card has wrecked itself in terms of price, being only printed once, and while that is recently, while it is leading a set that also had Borreload, or Boral Sword Dragon, this card is somewhat generic, and as a Link card, I find that somewhat tragic that it's so inaccessible for its price point, ranging $50 to $60 freaking dollars. That is crazy. Now, the 49th card is Maxi. Whether it's reprinted or not, for past format play, I would like to see this have another holo foil reprint, and it has the range though. It has the ultra rare, secret rare, super rare, but I'd still like to see this easily accessible for past format play, and if you ever consider catching us up to the OCG where there's 3 of these things flying around, I'd want everybody to have their hands on it. And the 50th card, we started the video with it, Smile. Foolish Burial Goods. It obviously deserves Ultimate Rare or Prismatic Secret. But that's it from us with, 50 different cards deserving of a reprint. What do you guys think in the comment section down below? Chat's had their talks the entire way here. I definitely think that there's so many things Konami could have considered with Duel Devastator, but still handled it pretty well for the cause of what it's supposed to be. But through the next 2 years, I would love to see a ton of these cards reprinted, and it'll be kind of fun to come back to this video maybe 2 years later and see what actually did get their reprints out of this list, and maybe what's going to continue to be missing from us for unspoken odd-off reasons. Thank you for watching, everybody. Subscribe if you haven't already. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed this conversation, and if you're hunting any of these cards, around, please use my TCG player link in the description down below. It costs you nothing extra and supports the channel directly whenever you're shopping there. Thank you for watching.